Welcome back to another episode of Movie Mayhem. As always, I'm Spanky.
G.
Usual shout-outs to Chucky's Playground, Cool Place to Be, Metal Matt Podcast, Chucky 115 Awesome, making his video tributes, and Simon Gray with his Ballad of Tiffany Valentine, which is kind of on a break for now, but
Yeah.
there'll be more to come in the future. Anyway, what?
I was gonna introduce myself as like G-string, but then I backed off like last minute, and that's why I'm laughing.
You dirty girl. You dirty
I
girl.
know.
That's not Christian.
It's Friday night, okay?
Ooh, this is how we do it. But anyway, as promised, this week, I don't know if you figured out the movie. I said it would be a movie starring the main actors from the previous two movies. So last week was North, starring Elijah Wood. And the week before that was Star Kid, starring Joseph Mazzello, otherwise known as the Jurassic Park Kid. And and if you haven't guessed, the movie we did this week was from
It's Red Robin. Radio Flyer.
Yeah. It's from 1992. It's Radio Flyer. And
Not Red Robin, sorry.
or Red Baron. but they,
Yeah, he meant Red Baron, so.
But also in this movie is Lorraine Bracco, who is she plays Karen from Goodfellas, or she's
I didn't like her.
she's the psychiatrist from The Sopranos. She does a lot of like those. John Hurd is in it. You best know him as the dad from the Home Alone movies.
And that's all you know him as. What the hell else?
He was in The Sopranos as well. Other people in this movie, there's no one else really notable. But, Tom Hanks is the narrator, and he's Elijah Wood's character grown up. And, so what happens is Tom Hanks is like at a small airfield with his two kids, they're arguing, and he decides to tell them a story, and it flashes back to a time where this boy named Fisher tried to jump his bike because he wanted to fly. And he crashes it, but he lives, and he becomes a legend. And then it cuts to Mike, played by Elijah Wood, and Bobby, played by Joseph Mazzello. They're brothers, 2 years apart. They're like 12 and 10 years old. I don't know what time this really took place in, probably the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And they're riding with their mom, played by Lorraine Bracco. And they're driving across the country from New Jersey, moving to California because their dad left them. Or the mom left the dad, whatever. They're split up and they never saw their dad again. And, they're kind of poor. They stop at, like, I don't know if it's an Indian reservation.
No, it's just like this little shitty amusement park.
And it's by some, like, cowboyish type dude named Geronimo Bill, who has a sad buffalo. And before they leave, Geronimo, like, it's kind of, like, you kind of realize how poor they are, because it's like 25 cents to get in. And the mom's like, we can't afford that. And Geronimo Bill's like, oh, you know it anyway. He's nice. And
Newcomers, out-of-towners are allowed to go in free.
And before they leave, he tells Elijah Wood's character Mike to take care of his mother. And that kind of plays a part for the whole rest of the movie. They get to California, they live with their aunt for a while, and then they meet their future stepfather. The King, and he's played by Adam Baldwin. No relation to the others. And they do this thing, you see more of it near the end, but you don't see really his face. They do the thing like he's always wearing sunglasses, or you never see his full face, or you never see it really close. And I think that's to kind of add to his character, because like he's the bad guy in this movie, and like the only thing I can think of to compare it to is if you ever remember the old Inspector Gadget cartoons, you never saw the Claw's face.
Just his cat.
Yeah, and his metal arm. But so anyway, you know, a lot of this movie is pretty simple because you learn that the stepdad is an alcoholic, and he abuses the fuck out of Bobby. Like, the living fuck. And, you know, they want to hide it from their mom because their mom's happy. But Bobby has, like, welts on his back.
But it's so weird why only one of them is getting it.
Well, they cover that, though. Like...
Well, because he messed up fishing.
What was that?
Well, like, the first time he hit him was when they were fishing.
Yeah, but, like, the reason... Because Bobby's the one that fucked up. It wasn't Mike. And that's the reason why he didn't hit Mike. Because Bobby's the one...
Yeah, but he always... Like...
Well, I'm just saying, you don't just... Like, it was a horrible reason, not justified, but that's why he hit Bobby. He had no reason to hit Bobby.
But he didn't, like, he always hit Bobby.
I know, but they cover that in the movie, like, because at one point, Mike has a dream where he imagines that giant buffalo, and the voice is Geronimo Bill, and he tells him to just protect Bobby, to just believe in Bobby. Bobby knows where he's going. And explains, like, the reason it happens to Bobby is because Mike can fight back. Somehow. You know, that's the only explanation. And you kind of just got to make sense of it. Mike is... And this will delve into some fan theories later, but Mike is older. You know, he's 12 years old. He could... I don't think the stepfather would be as able to abuse him as much as Bobby. And, like, I think the weapon of choice was a fucking cord.
Yeah.
I had a friend who, that was his punishment when he was a kid, was getting hit with a cord.
It hurt.
Yeah, and, some other stuff. There's, like, the neighborhood bullies, and John Hurd.
They're all Mexican.
They're in fucking, like... The town is called Novato. Which is... It's probably a fairly Hispanic area. But... John Hurd is, like, the sheriff, and he kind of knows, like, there's something odd going on. Or it's kind of like he knows what's going on, but he can't really do anything because he's not seeing it.
Yeah.
But, and then, like, they had a shed behind their house where they found a turtle named Samson.
The turtle was chained.
They didn't want it to get away, but somehow it broke the chain. And then they have a German Shepherd named Shane, which kind of protects them. And so... They have encounters with the bullies where Shane kind of saves them sometimes. But the whole gist of this movie is just Bobby getting the shit beat out of him repeatedly. And he gets it bad one day because the king comes home. Well, Bobby and Mike were trying to brew this like anti-monster potion. And it blew up all over the kitchen, and they're cleaning it up. And they're afraid that if the king comes home and sees it, he's going to hit him. But they try to hide his cord in the oven, thinking he wouldn't be able to find it. And he turns the oven on to cook, and he finds it. And during this time, like, Mike, promised that he's going to protect Bobby and help him. But at that point, the neighborhood kids wanted to play with Mike and bully him around, and he fell for it, so he left Bobby all by himself. And then the dad the stepdad, the king, he finds the cord in the oven, gets pissed, and he puts Bobby in the hospital. He beats him so bad. And the dog attacks him, the stepdad, and, the stepdad ends up going to jail. And so the mom's like, this will never happen again. But then you see, like, she needs the king for finances.
Yeah.
Because she's a waitress. And, the king ends up getting released from jail early because of his mother dying, I think.
Yeah.
And he promises never to drink again or do whatever, but he still does. But in the meantime, there's a couple scenes where, like, Bobby is just, like, in the zone watching things, and it's always doing something with flying. And, as Tom Hanks, the older Mikey, is narrating it, he covers, like, these 7 truths about being under 12. It's like your imagination and shit. And the boys, they have a radio flyer, which, if you were a fucking normal kid, you had a radio flyer growing up.
I never did. My sister did, that bitch. I never did.
You could not ride those things down a hill. Like, just normally, because the steering, it would always, like, jackknife and you'd fucking flip. But we had a rusty old one, but anyway, you finally realize what their plan is, and it's to turn the radio flyer into a makeshift airplane so Bobby can fly away and never be abused again.
I know, which is so sad.
So they start collecting parts, the lawnmower engine, and they start building it. And, like, the stepdad comes home one day and sees, like, the mirrors taken off his... Where's my goddamn side views? They take his mirrors off his motorcycle. And, like, the kids were at school and they started getting sick out of a bad intuition because, like, they say, like, the dog Shane prevented the stepdad from finding their plane that they were building. And he got into a fight with the dog, the stepdad, and the stepdad almost killed the dog. And, from there they decide it's time to go. They leave a note for the mom. Bobby is going to leave with Shane and Samson. And it's just makeshift airplane. And while they're on the way, they go to the gas station. And they start filling it up. And there's a gas station attendant that's limping. And it's like a guy in his 20s.
And it's just like something really pedophile. Well, he doesn't say it's pedophile-ish, but he just like gives advice.
It's really odd. He goes because they have this whole thing covered with a tarp, and they're like, fill it with gas. And the guy knows what they're doing.
Before you catch air.
Yeah, you later find out, like, in that same scene that he's Fisher, grown up.
Yeah.
So, because, like, the rumor had it Fisher died or shit like that or whatever, but... So he's, like, giving them advice. He goes, if there's anything left by the time you hit the bottom, you have a chance. Or shit like that. So they start going to there's this big hill.
And then he gives him his baseball card.
Well, because back in the day, you put that in your bike so it sounded like a motorcycle. But,
Really? That's why people did it?
yeah, or you put a pop can in there, too. Because it would go against the spokes, and it would go grrr, and make a weird noise.
Let me guess, you did that.
Not with a baseball card.
With a pop can?
Yeah, you just crumpled up a pop can and shoved it in between your bike tire and the frame. It fell out, but anyway, they go down to this hill, and they're getting the frickin' plane all set up, and it's like full out the wings. There's little propellers on the top. There's a propeller on the front. These bike tires on the side. They have a fucking lawn chair. Samson's just fucking chilling. Like a fucking boss of a turtle.
Turtles just look like old people.
Turtles are awesome. And they're getting ready to take off, but in the meanwhile, the king got drunk and found the note, ripped it up, and he was, he's gonna go beat the shit out of him again. So he just takes off. The mom comes home, reads the note, goes to the cops, so the stepdad gets to the hill first and kind of gets in like a tug of war with Mike and kind of tries to attack him, but then the dog hops out of the radio flyer and attacks him.
Yeah.
And then the radio flyer starts going down the hill, and then it hits the ramp and it takes off. And this is like how 9/11 happened. It's exactly how it happened. Like
terrorists and fucking radio flyers.
Some goofy, abused kid tried to fly his fucking wagon, and he took out the World Trade Centers. That's how it happened. I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Or I said he was gonna hit a tree like Paul Walker, but
he wasn't drag racing.
But anyway, and he starts to nosedive, and he thinks he's gonna crash or something. Then he turns on the other propellers, and he flies away. And he flies away off, and he's kind of with walkie-talkie talking to Elijah Wood. And he just flies away. He's like, bye, Mike. And then the mom and the cop shows up, and the mom never believes. She doesn't really understand.
Because who the fuck would believe that?
Okay, but then, like, a couple months later, they get a postcard in the mail from, like, the little Geronimo Bill resort, and it's written by Bobby.
And if you look at the address to it, Mom and Mike Wright.
Yeah. And over time, it shows, like, Mike in college, and he's got a bunch of postcards, and there's all these spots all over the world that Bobby has traveled. And this is where the theories are going to come in, and that's kind of how, and then it kind of ends with, it goes back to Tom Hanks telling his kids this story, and the reason there's theories that emerge from this, besides, like, the unbelievability of a wagon turned into a plane, but Tom Hanks goes like, see, history is in the eye of the teller, or something like that. So he kind of says like,
and then the kid kind of like, is Tom Hanks Bobby? Because like, they asked like, is that how we got Samson?
Yeah, I don't know. So, and that's how the movie ends. And so there's the theories going around. One, that Bobby really died. He crashed to his death. Or the stepdad beat him to death. Another theory is that Bobby was a figment of Mike's imagination.
Which I don't believe.
And, but then, everyone will say Bobby died, Bobby died, Bobby died. They always ask the director of this movie, and he kind of got fed up with being asked, and he has a blog, and he answered the question. And according to the director, Bobby did not die. But it's not like he traveled the world in the radio flyer. You see, in the blog, which I have right up here, he's saying stuff like, there was a couple scenes near the end that he wanted, but they got cut out or, like, dropped.
Yeah.
And one of them was having Bobby and Mike grown up. And, like, something where, like, they're at where they're at the Smithsonian National Aerospace Museum.
Yeah.
And the radio flyer is on display next to the Wright brothers plane.
Oh.
That was one scene he had in mind for the original script. That's how the original script ended. It ended with a reunion between them. And, the whole thing is the director kind of wanted... It's a little bit of a fantasy, and a lot of people can't grasp it, but... Which they say as... which he kind of narrates through the movie with the whole 7 things you believe when you're under 12. The director wanted to go with something like, well, to kids, that type of shit is real.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that it's in their imagination, it's saying that it did happen. But because it happened because they were kids and they believed.
Yeah.
Okay, and then other parts of the ending, which he said is like, like, the original ending of the film isn't in the film. They wanted, like, part of the original ending had Bobby in an Air Force officer's uniform in the museum. So that would have explained how he went around the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I always took it. Like, of course, when I was a little kid, I'm like, oh, he flew that wagon everywhere. Like, and then part of me thought he kind of flew to Geronimo Bill and lived with Geronimo Bill.
Yeah.
That's one thing I kind of think happened. And the other part was he grew up and became a pilot.
Yeah, that's what, like, I'm kind of assuming happened.
Yeah.
Not, like, went to college or whatever.
So, and that's pretty, I mean, yeah, there's the crazy theory that he did die, but I don't know. There was that was the whole thing with Fisher, too, the original legend.
Yeah.
And he was the gas station attendant, and he walked all funny like he had a wood chip up his butt. But anyway, this was a first time watching for G, and, like, I love this movie. It is a great movie. I remember seeing it on TV when I was little. It has a lot more harsh language than what you think. It's a PG-13 movie. And as I said, if you go to IMDb, every single, like, fucking message board thread is like, Bobby died, Bobby died, Bobby died. And you'll see the occasional person go in there and say, if you read the director, what he said about his own movie, Bobby. So it's one of those ones where there's theories and everything, but it's put to rest by the director.
Yeah.
And, so, yeah, it was, it only has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. It kind of, see, the original screenwriter, he was replaced. That's the guy who did the blog.
Oh.
Like, the original director, David Mickey Evans, was replaced by Richard Donner. And he did a lot of different movies, like The Goonies.
What year was this movie? 1994?
92. Yeah, and they did reshoots because it tested poorly. The original script had more fantasy sequences. And then, like, even the Richard Donner who took over, he also says that there's no cryptic or implied ending to the film. So it's what you see is what you get. So, yeah, it's definitely a very interesting movie. I recommend it. It's a great movie. It's not really a kids movie though per se. It's a little harsh. Really intense.
Yeah.
'Cause
It was okay.
What was that?
It was okay. Like, I don't know. These type of movies are like, I don't know. There's just wagons don't fly.
I know, but the whole thing, like, I think one of these things about this movie is also to really, really enjoy it. I think you have to be one of the people who've seen it as a younger kid.
I thought you were going to say, like, seen it happen. I'm like,
Yeah.
you did not see a fucking radio fire wagon.
Yeah, I flew it all the time. I did a barrel roll.
Yeah, shut up.
But yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, you may see it nowadays and you're like, eh. But, like, you know, if you've seen it as a kid, it's like, yeah, hands down, great fucking movie. Which I got a couple more of those up my sleeve, which I think you might have seen.
My.
They're pretty interesting. I think you might have seen a couple. So I kind of want to keep this trend going of these, like, I don't know, I wouldn't say they're like, just comes off so hipstery, but they're not like super mainstream, but they're not also like completely.
Yeah, where's your thick cribbed glasses? Like,
what was that?
Cribbed glasses.
Nah. Like, kind of like hidden gems. Like, this movie bombed in the box office. It would have had a $35 million budget, and it got under $5 million in the box office. So, like, our last three movies are, like, stuff, if you've seen it as a kid, you fucking love. But they were fucking bombs. Like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like, North was probably the biggest bomb of the bombs.
North is often referred to as one of the worst movies of all time.
Such haters.
It's got Elijah Wood with a bowl cut, just like this movie.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it. So it's one of those, it's odd seeing like Tom Hanks in it as a narrator because he didn't really have much of a role.
Well, that's just like in I'm not even gonna bring it up because I have a feeling it's one of the movies that we're gonna do.
Who are you talking about?
Jim Carrey.
I don't know if it's one of the movies I'm talking
Movie.
about. No.
Yeah, you said it.
I can't remember. Oh. It's not boobies, it's boobs. But yeah, okay.
That's a hint. That could be a cliffhanger.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. I think, yeah, well, you want to do that next week?
Just hear Spanky go boobs in your mind all week long.
Is that what you want to do next week?
Yeah, we'll do that one.
All right, we're not going to spoil it for you, but just give you a clue. Boobs. So,
you look like a deranged Smurf when you say it.
But on that note, thank you for listening. It was fun as always. Tune in next week. We'll get another one of these hidden gems out to you. I think we got like another 2 months of these we can do. So,
yeah, maybe.
So until next time, stay classy.
Yeah.